I'm curious. I know a lot of you are like, look, nobody can explain to me what the Bidens got paid to do against America. I don't know yet. None of them have made the case yet that they've done China a favor right now of any sort. Nobody has been able to point to a single piece of policy that Joe Biden has changed to allegedly benefit the people who allegedly paid him money that they have not shown that he's actually been paid. Nobody. Even the firing of the prosecutor. Again, the Obama administration, the entirety of it, all of Congress, the IMF, the EU. Everybody wanted that dude fired because they wanted stability in Ukraine, and that guy would not prosecute corruption. End of story. And then they brought in a guy who did, and that's the guy who went after the head of Burisma who fled the country. So I don't know what they're being paid for, but apparently they're being paid a lot, according to Glenn. And he's got a number. Shock. Biden crime family made this much from foreign sources?
Miranda Devine is on.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where he is. He's on a book tour. He's in a radio station someplace. Doing a show. This is old school Glenn.
Miranda Devine is on with us. She is the author of the book Laptop from Hell. Came out, I think, about a year ago. She's never actually laid eyes on the laptop. She's seen a hard drive named laptop. That's the same. The New York Post columnist, and has been neck deep in this.
In her own ass.
Ooh, I don't want to say in Hunter Biden, but in Hunter Biden's stories. And she's been...
Wait, head first or feet first? Kind of matters.
Essential in exposing a lot of the things that were on the laptop. She joined...
Yes, if it wasn't for Miranda Devine, most of us wouldn't have seen the picture of him smoking in the bathtub more than 25 times.
Us now. Miranda, are you there?
Good day. Hello. Hi, Glenn. Great to be with you.
Hi. Yeah. So, Miranda...
I don't think it's a good idea to lie right out of the gate.
You had the actual laptop, right?
Yes. Well, the hard drive.
There we go. All right. The hard drive. Not the actual hard drive, the copy of the hard drive. I got a copy of the hard drive from the guy who got a copy of the hard drive. I've got a copy of a copy of the hard drive. I think, that would be the... Yeah, so, okay. I got a copy of the hard drive, it's like I said, a copy of a copy of a copy. All right.
The hard drive, yes.
Complete replica of the laptop.
Hold on, sorry. So you have the murder weapon. Yes, I've got a copy of the murder weapon. I've got a complete replica of the murder weapon, including a replica of the fingerprints and a replica of the hair fibers, but it's basically the same thing. Shit, I love that. Can we just listen to that again? That's gorgeous.
Okay, so I have a friend, Peter Schweizer, who is got a team of people, and they're very, very good. I know you're
so good. Here we go. Wait, say that again.
Hard drive, which
is
Hold on.
Yeah. So Miranda, you had the actual laptop, right?
Yes. Well, the hard drive, which is
the hard drive. Yes.
Complete replica of the laptop.
The complete replica of the laptop. Well, a complete replica of a replica of the replica.
Okay. So I have a friend, Peter Schweizer, who...
By the way, replica? Okay, first of all, what you want to say is forensic copy, because that means it was a one-to-one, bit-to-bit copy of the hard drive. Now, you can't say that because it isn't true. So, you want to say, I have a forensic copy of the original drive that was copied by Rudy Giuliani from the copy that John Paul McIsaac gave to what is it, John Mackey or whatever his name was, to copy for him. I have a copy of that. That's the truth.
who is got a team of people, and they're very, very good. I know you're very, very good.
At what?
How did we not see the email that says, I'm sitting here on the couch with my dad?
Because it wasn't an email, it's a WhatsApp message, and it got added later.
And we want our money, China.
Well, the beauty of that, it's actually not an email, it's a WhatsApp message, which is an encrypted app. And none of that appears on the laptop. Is that
none of that? Wait, what? Excuse me?
Which is an encrypted app, and none of that appears on the laptop. That WhatsApp message was retrieved by the IRS criminal investigators through a subpoena to Apple for Hunter Biden.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one of the reasons why that led to that was actually entered in as evidence is because it's not attached to this copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a hard drive, period. And also, Apple didn't provide the WhatsApp stuff and the encrypted stuff unless they subpoenaed it to open his phone. But he gave over a hard drive and a phone to the IRS a couple of years ago. So I think she's talking out of her ass about that as well.
iCloud. What the beauty of that is that, the
beauty of that is it might even be admissible, sort of, unlike everything in this fucking copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of the replica of a copy.
The laptop the FBI they authenticated, can you believe it, every single piece on it that it was reliable evidence.
No, they didn't.
And hadn't been tampered with and was real.
Wrong. Not true. Not at all true.
They'd authenticate it by as early as February of 2020, but they refused to give it to the IRS investigators. And, as Gary Shapley, the whistleblower, said in his testimony that was released on Friday, he said, we needed to know, we're looking at how much money Hunter Biden didn't pay in tax. We need to know about that email, about 10% for the big guy. We need to know.
All right. So, that email is from the laptop, or the alleged laptop. And the reason why the IRS, the people that Shapley worked for, did not want to use that or did not want to have that incorporated into the investigation is because that is an unverifiable piece of bullshit from the hard drive she's shopping around, and that Mackey shopped around, and that Giuliani had multiple copies of. And if they brought that in, any first-year law student could get it thrown out as fruit of the poison tree. So they stayed away from it because they were trying to convict him on tax evasion.
Who's the big guy? Where'd that money go? Because otherwise we will count that 10% and make Hunter Biden pay tax for it. So,
no, they won't. That business never even happened. You can't tax profits that never occurred from an investment that was never made in a business that was never started. She wrote a fucking book about this.
They asked several times for the Department of Justice, for their prosecutors. They said, we need the laptop, and they were refused. But they managed to get a lot of the material.
Because they didn't, okay, first of all, the laptop itself, they had to buy another laptop to put put the original waterlogged hard drive, this is the theory, into a new one, and then try to retrieve data from it in a similar way that John Paul McIsaac retrieved it from the one that was dropped off at his place. The problem with that is twofold. One is, and it depends on which story you believe, because according to the testimony she's talking about, Hunter Biden dropped off a hard drive that said, anything you can say, he said, these laptops are fucked. And he goes, bring me a hard drive and I'll salvage your data off of it. And then he was like, you can pulp them. And with the idea being that after you're done copying it to this hard drive, you blank the hard drive and throw it out, because why would you keep my shit? So the idea is he drops off this hard drive. John Paul McIsaac copies his copy onto that and then Hunter Biden takes this hard drive and leaves. That's part of the story that this guy makes. And the problem is that from that point on, Hunter Biden's attorney can make the case that he was made aware of the files that were on this, that were salvaged, were copied to this, but they were not the property of him going forward. And that old hard drive and all of its stuff should have been thrown away. You might have had, you could have claimed the physical hardware, but you didn't have a right to the information because you had basically said, I made a copy, here's the copy. He saved a copy for himself. That's what John Paul McIsaac is doing. He's been walking around with this other copy that he gave to Mackey, and they copied and copied and copied and copied, and then it's got 3 times as much material on it as it did when it left his shop. But the issue that they have, and the issue she has, and the issue that the FBI had at the time, allegedly, was that Hunter Biden had supposedly dropped off this hard drive and said, copy it onto here. And he did. But he also made his own copy, which is illegal. And when you give that, because of chain of evidence issues, you give that copy that you don't have a right to somebody else, that's a violation of his Fourth Amendment rights. And so all of it gets thrown out, all of it. And if it touches your case, and you go, yeah, we found out about this from that hard drive, then all of everything that came from it, fruit of the poison tree, gets thrown out. That's why they were avoiding it. That's why. That at least alleged towards this guy who was testifying.
It's on the laptop through this subpoena for Hunter Biden's iCloud. So that's another way that you can.
Yeah, and by the way, the iCloud thing, because he was already participating, and this is why the WhatsApp stuff and all that can be incorporated in, and why that evidence and why he's pled guilty to stuff related to that, and why he's paying a fine and all that shit. That's because it came from him handing over a real laptop of his own, for real, and his attorneys working with the IRS to deal with this issue. And then they shake a felony in your face, and then you plead to a misdemeanor so you don't have to go through the whole trial. And arguably, the IRS and the FBI guys that might have been involved in this all knew that if they went to trial on this, they actually went to trial on this, they could go, where'd you get, what was the predicate for going this? You know how Trump's always trying to get everything about him thrown out because of the Steele dossier and that they shouldn't have even looked, right? That whole story. That is absolutely true when it comes to this hard drive. That's the fascinating part. So, and again, it's the son of a guy who was at that time former vice president, wasn't going to run again. Yeah, it's a fucking yawn.
Prove that what's in the laptop is legitimate because there's
no. Some of the stuff is real, some of it's fake. It's all mixed together. Some stuff is just added to, like emails with lines added to them. And there's like 80% of it's real, and then you can add lines to it because there's no metadata and you can't check it against it, and you can't force somebody to verify an email on their end unless you have a smoking gun that it's legit from the start. So you have to be able to show the metadata in court that says, we know this email is totally true and was never modified. You have to be able to come in and do that in court to force somebody to give up other stuff. They can't. Because it's a copy of a copy of a copy. That's the problem. And that's why this will always be blabbity blah. This is, I would argue, the right-wing version of the left, the far left anyways, blaming the CIA for everything. Because the CIA can't defend themselves. They can't come forward and go, that's not true. We didn't do that. We did this. They've got to keep everything quiet. So you can always make up. You can just spackle any holes in your knowledge with the worst conspiracies in the world because they can't defend themselves. They're the perfect foil for this.
a lot of overlap. But of course, they got a lot of things.
There's a lot of overlap. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. There's some emails that are real, and there's some pictures that are real, and there's some emails that are fake, and some videos that are fake.
Things that aren't on the laptop that were deleted or never preserved.
What?
Things that aren't on the laptop is
Say that. Listen to this.
Because there's a lot of overlap. But of course, they got a lot of things that aren't on the laptop that were deleted or never preserved.
How much money do you think, and do we have a reasonable idea of how much money the Bidens have made through?
They check their taxes and their property
through these kinds of things.
$1 billion. I'm going to. What do you think? Chat room. Billion one. What do you think? Billion two. What do you think?
Well, look, we have for the first time a definitive number that the second IRS whistleblower, who was the lead case agent on that 5-year investigation into Hunter Biden's taxes, he's given in his testimony a figure. Now, I think it was $18.2 million.
$18.2 million that they got. And that's the entire Biden family, including all projects that, like all the money Hunter made, all the money that James Biden made. And I guess, what are we going? Foreign book sales for Joe? 18. Okay, so the idea is that it isn't so much that the Bidens sold out America, it's that they're a cheap date. Meanwhile, how much did Jared Kushner get and Ivanka? How much? Trump got $17 million in one fucking night for killing TPP.
I could be out by, a few $100,000.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, really. It's all criminal funds.
But it's in that ballpark, say $18 to $19 million. That
okay, $18 to $19 million. I said it. Now what?
Came in from foreign sources.
Okay, the money came in from foreign sources. Okay, so there's the United States, and then there's the rest of the world. And this money, if I'm following, came to them from work they did or businesses they had that did business in the rest of the world. Elsewhere. Okay. All right. And in exchange for that $18 million, they did what exactly?
Into the sort of Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, Devon Archer, his various...
the investment company that he had that invested hundreds of millions of dollars with his partners. So he did that, and he brought in about $18 million total. He did he? I'm sorry, but on a global scale, chicken shit money.
Partners in crime or, in business.
Right. Yeah, crime, business. What's the difference?
And then out of that, there was about 9 million, a little over 9 million, went directly to Hunter Biden. So he got about half the cut.
Right, because he did all the big money work. And then James got the rest.
Whether or not 10% went to the big guy, a.k.a. Joe Biden, has yet to be determined.
Has yet? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a done deal because Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to impeach him. Apparently, it's been whether the 10% of the 9 million, so $900,000. $900,000. Joe Biden got $900,000 for what? To do what? Revive the Quad, start the AUKUS agreement, defend Taiwan, set China's technological sector back a decade? What was the $900,000 for? Because Trump got $17 million in his Chinese bank account, and he took $15 million out of it in a single night after he shut down TPP. 900,000. That is all about you think Joe Biden sold out the country for $900,000. That's the number.
We know that Hunter got $9 million and he underpaid his taxes over that period significantly. Now, we know that Kevin Morris, Hunter Biden's sugar brother from California, the Hollywood lawyer, he befriended Hunter Biden and was terribly generous to him, paid back $2.8 million in unpaid taxes last year.
Terribly.
Yes, in exchange for, obviously, Biden favoring California in the, what would they put that? It was in the infrastructure bill. They did a thing that obviously California benefited from on the diesel, that all went to that guy's neighborhood. It had to be, it's got to be something. All right. Yeah, she said sugar brother.
Generous.
Not to be confused with Sugar Bear. Now, don't worry about it. Everybody knows that Sugar Bear is here. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you. Speaking of Sugar Bear, thank you for being such a sugar bear.
Terribly generous.
Yeah, that's one nice. Oh, it's charity. I was just doing it for a friend. I mean, I write, tens of millions of dollars of checks for friends.
Well, the guy, I think because of his investments, had made a lot more money working with Hunter. Legit had made more money, and so it's just like, yeah, it's a loan.
And I never expect to have them.
By the way, again, are they this outraged about Trump? I wouldn't mind. I mean, again, Hunter Biden should face whatever he faces because that's the shit. But wouldn't you say that the Trump case in New York has more legs now due to this?
Do anything for me. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be talking.
Can't get enough of that sugar, Chris. The Sugar Bear.
From the press secretary, their podium there at the White House, talking some business later to the press. I mean, it wasn't the goodness of his heart. Is anybody investigating him?
Well, look, so the tax
Did he do it under the table? Did he hide it? Did he build a shell company and funnel the money to Hunter? No. Why would you investigate something for someone for something they do that's overt when you're not even looking at Trump's fucking tax shenanigans? Oh, God.
Investigators did not treat that money that Kevin Morris paid as a gift, which would itself have been taxable for Hunter Biden because Hunter Biden said it was a loan. So presumably Hunter Biden
has to pay it back.
Biden will repay Kevin Morris with the money he gets from the work he does now as an artist.
So, Miranda, I mean, what's so crazy, he says it's a loan. That's what he said about the money he was paid from Burisma when they put the money into Rosemont Seneca. He didn't pay any taxes because he said it was a loan and then just never paid it back.
Yeah, that's right. And
again, then why don't you guys have a problem with Donald Trump? This is the same shit. Donald Trump told the IRS his buildings weren't worth shit. And he told the banks they were worth twice what they're actually worth. One is criminal fraud. The other one is criminal tax evasion. Why don't you guys have a problem with that? Because again, I have not heard a single person come up and go, Hunter Biden they should just let him slide on this. No, if you get busted for that kind of shenanigans, who gives a shit? Pay it off. None of my goddamn business.
And it's just what these IRS guys who've been doing this for, a quarter of a century between them, they say this is textbook tax evasion.
Right. But the biggest question from the minority counsel when they were asking them during this, because I read the entire transcript of this dude's thing, was, is it normal to spend this much time on this little money? Because we're talking about $2.6 to $3 million in unpaid taxes over a series of years, and they had already remedied half of it. So how many guys did you have on this during the Trump years, from like 2017 on? How many guys worked on this? And they said we had about 17 people working about 2,000 hours each on all this. They had cases worth billions in hidden tax revenue that they didn't have that many agents on. Wouldn't it seem like the Trump administration was finding friendlies and trying to put pressure on people to be able to go after Hunter Biden and go after Hillary Clinton and others as revenge, and also to head off any challenges he might actually have? Because ultimately, Joe Biden was the one person he feared running against, and rightly so. You
get paid, you put it into another company, you say it's a loan. You can't give.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit. Yes, he should pay taxes on that. And
yourself a loan that you never.
Right. Again, you didn't promise us tax evasion, that Hunter Biden would Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. What I was promised, what it says on the tin, Miranda, is that you are promising a quid pro quo scheme with foreign nationals paying Biden to sell out America. That's a high fucking bar.
Pay back. So they obviously wanted to charge that as tax evasion, but that was in 2014, 2015, when Hunter Biden was living in Washington, D.C. And
no, that was after 2014, 2015. His problem was that they were dragging their feet on that stuff and that they should have acted faster because the statute of limitations ran out on some of it. That wasn't ultimately what never mind.
Turns out David Weiss, the U.S. Attorney for Delaware, who was given all of the Hunter Biden investigations that came in from all around the country, for some reason by Bill Barr, they all went to Delaware. And
because his company is registered there? Because Delaware is where most companies in the United States are incorporated. The most number of companies incorporated in any state in America is Delaware. That's why. And the Delaware IRS agents and the Delaware AG are experts in this kind of shit, in corporate fraud and tax evasion, especially using foreign shell companies because of the tax structure of Delaware. Dummy.
David Weiss, just asked nicely of the Washington, D.C. U.S. Attorney who'd been appointed by Joe Biden, could I please lay some charges against Hunter Biden in your jurisdiction?
Could I please?
And surprise, surprise, U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., Matthew Graves, said, no, you can't.
Because none of the business happened here. He doesn't live here. He doesn't have a business license here. He didn't conduct the business here. Even the stuff that you're accusing him from with my dad sitting right here WhatsApp message happened in Delaware. No. You're just trying to put it in D.C. so that you can taint his dad with stuff that has nothing to do with his dad. If you have a case against his dad for the time he lived in the White House or in the vice president's quarters, then bring it or fuck off.
Same thing happened in the Central District of California for the later years, where Hunter Biden had been living in Malibu and Venice Beach. And no, you can't do it, another Biden appointee. And David Weiss just meekly accepts that, and then the statute of limitations.
Because they're not registered as a business in California. And it's a federal tax thing, not state taxes.
Run out on those, which were the biggest part of the charges, the most serious.
Yes, the biggest part of the tax evasion charges. Which, again, I was promised a quid pro quo. Who in chat room, are you guys, does that bother anybody? Does that get to anybody about this? Were we not all promised by these assholes for years now? We were promised a quid pro quo. We were promised evidence. Not even, by the way, we got Romania, we got Ukraine, and we got China, a whole other country, which turned out to also be Ukraine and was also the original story. At this point, yeah, PPP loans, anybody? Yeah, is anybody going after Marjorie Taylor Greene for that shit? Honest to God. Whoops, I missed somebody. I don't believe it either. It's so weird. Thank you for the super chat, Dennis. I look at it as a bucket of piss to drown rats in. Well, yes, I could see that. Trump paid $750 last year. Exactly. Just the lameness of it. Christ almighty. Anybody, like, where is the selling out America part? Just tell me. Point it out. And I don't want to hear this fucking prosecutor in Ukraine horse shit when the guy was a Russian sock puppet and everybody wanted him gone in the entire administration. My question is, what does this have to do with the kidney? Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah. So I just, can somebody ask them that? Can any of these guys go, what was the payoff? What was the thing? What? I don't understand. What's the sales pitch? Tell me. You got it. Elevator pitch. It's been years. Give me 2 sentences. They got paid this to do this. And it was a bad thing because this happened. Because I can do that with Trump. George Papadopoulos tells the Australian diplomat that the Russians have reached out to say they would like to help him get elected. Meanwhile, Trump runs interference every time Putin says something. I don't know why it would be Russia. He has Lavrov and those guys in the Oval Office for private meetings with no one present. We know he wanted a Trump Tower Moscow up to a certain point. The only thing that fucked it into a cocked hat ultimately was the fact that it was discovered, and arguably COVID. Had COVID not happened, we'd already be seeing them break ground on Trump Tower Moscow before all this shit blew up. He also hamstrung Ukraine so that he was going to deny them weapons, hold them back, even though the Congress had written them off. He tried to hold them back as long as possible, delaying the shipments so that they could go in the spring once he won re-election, and then he didn't win, so they had to punt it a year because it's about weather. Still didn't help. But he was there to set it up. He was undermining NATO on their behalf. He was running interference for them. He was creating unity amongst North Korea and the Saudis and Russia, who are all palling around with each other while undercutting our allies, and his attempt to fuck the euro. He was also fighting to give us a negative interest rate to crash the dollar, which in some ways you could think he thought it was a good idea, but on the other end, he maybe thought he was going to buy the dip on U.S. currency with money he got from them. The fuck out of here. It's all kinds of shit. Manafort worked for him for free. Manafort worked with Yanukovych as a sock puppet for Russia. Was responsible for snipers in bell towers shooting people on Euromaidan. And Trump was like, I want that guy. The guy who picks dudes off of Craigslist to gang fuck his wife, who was made an invalid in a fucking car accident. That's who Trump picks. Former Epstein buddy Donald Trump picks Paul Manafort, a man whose own daughter's messages speak of a level of monstrosity in that fucker that very little shocks me. That was shocking. Feeding polling data to Russians, being in constant contact, sending Carter Page over on trips to Russia, having him, because he speaks Russian, hang out backstage when Russian agents they just stumble upon being backstage at a Trump rally. That makes sense. That's pretty easy to understand. What part of the CHIPS Act did China give Joe Biden $900,000 to lay his dick on their forehead? Yes, Manafort did that, Cynthia. And again, evangelicals, maggots, explain yourself. Explain working with a guy like that. And don't give me he's the best, because Trump fired him later and then pardoned him after he got busted. Yes, Manafort owed Oleg Deripaska, tons of money. Thanks for buying the NFT shirt. Yay. You see constantly Trump running interference, defending Putin at every corner, to the expense of the American people, as they built up their alliance with the Saudis, with the Iranians, with the North Koreans, with the Chinese, all working together, developing that relationship. Now, in some cases, they have a relationship because Trump helped them build it, and Biden is fucking with all of them, so they're kind of like cowering together. But that's very different from helping them line up. Yes. His own daughters, Jonathan saying in the chat room, his own daughters described what Manafort did to their mother. So somebody, anybody, even if I give you that they gave him the money, which I fucking well do not do, but if I gave you that, what did they get in exchange? $1, the US dollar being worth $1.15, lowest unemployment rate in 50 fucking years. What did they get? I don't get it. It's not for a lack of looking. I have actually been trying to find something in this because it drives me nuts. It's right up there with the explain adrenochrome to me, QAnons, because everybody you say that takes it looks like shit. I don't know. None of them. Not a one. Manafort has gout. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I don't wish ill on anybody, but
areas for Hunter Biden, and also encompassed Foreign Agent Registration Act violations. So, in other words, foreign.
By the way, all shit that during the Trump years they thought these are no pun intended trumped up charges. They're just attacking his campaign for Flynn working for Turkey
and lobbying. There was evidence of that.
Yeah.
Was there now? What did they lobby for? What did they get? Here's the fun part. If they got paid to lobby and they didn't do it, is that a violation of FARA, or are they scamming foreign countries who are full of gullible criminals?
The laptop, and we could never understand why on earth weren't those charges brought. Now we know from the whistleblowers it's because the Department of Justice allowed the statute of limitations to run out because David Weiss said, oh, well, we can't bring charges because these U.S. attorneys who were appointed by Biden won't let us.
It's because the evidence that they had came from a copy of a hard drive, and the evidence that they had that they were actually building a case on wasn't related to it, and you couldn't link it together without destroying the evidence you had.
So last October, when Gary Shapley, the IRS whistleblower, and his crack team,
they were on. They had to, because they went undercover with Hunter Biden disguised as crack. I'm sorry.
The SEAL team of the IRS. They are the ones who go.
They're the SEAL team of the IRS. I had no idea they could balance a beach ball on their nose.
He's collected $2.5 billion of taxes on behalf of the American taxpayer from all over the country, all over the world, actually, in his career. So he is the number one. He's the GOAT of IRS investigators.
No, his branch did, not him personally. He works with a bunch of people. You could say that of anybody in that office, and all right.
And he's had this meeting in October with Weiss and said, why on earth did you let the statute of limitations run out? And Weiss says, well, I went to the Department of Justice and I asked if I could be made special counsel so that I could bring charges in those jurisdictions, and they refused me. Well, now Merrick Garland has come out and said that's not true, that the only person who can make Weiss a special counsel is me, and he never asked. And so someone's lying. And that's the Republicans need.
Or Shapley actually said, why didn't you make yourself, why didn't you ask for independent counsel status? Because he goes, well, I did. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I was going to. And then that becomes the conversation.
All the me.
I will tell you, my best guess is they're probably both lying to some degree or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Weiss is lying to Shapley. Shapley's lying in his deposition, and Garland's lying about what, according to Shapley, who believes everybody is lying.
But let me ask you, I've got about 30 seconds.
That should be enough. unless you wanted to produce the hard drive.
You have been on this story for years.
And still,
I mean, you were at the Post when the laptop was, Russian disinformation, and they
yeah, it's still. I'm sorry, the hard drive. I mean, be fair.
banned the Post from, any social media.
They didn't get banned from any social media. They were off Twitter for like 6 hours, Facebook for about the same amount of time. Their website was never taken down. People could reference it. They just couldn't post it because it was obviously meant to be an October surprise and it was unverifiable. No metadata. Fuck off.
Do you think we're at a turning point, or is this more of the same that's not going to amount to anything or any?
Oh, I know. That's my theory. Yeah, but it's gonna be fuck all. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a whole lot of it.
Jail.
I think that the Gary Shapley's testimony and his partner is a game changer because they brought evidence that is separate from the laptop and is not just hearsay or one person's word against Joe Biden's.
Well, yeah, except except for the fact that none of it's actually evidence. I mean, if you talk about, probably the closest thing they have is Rob Walker's interview with the FBI, where he was on tape, with the idea being that he thought that the time in 2017, Hunter Biden was meeting with some guys to do business. And his dad dropped by, said hi, didn't drink even a glass of water, but glad-handed. And he said to his dad, I'm thinking of doing some business with these guys. And his dad said, oh, it sounds great. And then he fucked off. Which, if you'll recall, I don't remember who was president in 2017. I guess more to the point, who was vice president in 2017? Who was no longer in public office? Who was at that point a former vice president, borderline elderly, not planning on running for president at that point that we know of, and certainly not expected to win. So what's your fucking point? Also, and again, what was the quo? What was in exchange? What? Because he said, because his dad was vice president. Like, holy shit, that was the former vice president. And
this is evidence, transcripts of interviews with Hunter Biden's former business partners.
That's what I was talking about. Look at what I say.
Memorialized conversations with 6 witnesses between Gary Shapley and David White and DOJ prosecutors or district attorneys who were obstructing. So I think there is clear evidence of malfeasance by the Department of Justice, involvement of the highest level of the FBI, and there's
also in an unpaid taxes case is the idea, none of which occurred when Joe Biden was vice president or working. And the idea that he was like, you didn't talk with your son about his business? No, I didn't discuss business. I knew my son was in business. He said, this is my partner. Hello, nice to meet you. That's it. But again, in exchange for what? Where's the sweetheart deals that they got? Where's the federal funds that went to Burisma or went to the fucking mayor of Moscow's wife or the Romanian foreign aid that Obama gave Biden free reign to dole out and write checks? Congress writes those checks. What the shit?
2 parts of this story. There's the original corruption story, but I think, as with Watergate, the biggest story is the cover-up. And Gary Shapley...
No. The biggest story with Watergate was not the cover-up. The biggest crime was the cover-up. But the biggest story with Watergate was the fucking fact that Richard Nixon paid some dudes, including G. Gordon Liddy, to break into DNC headquarters, and they were caught, apparently by Forrest Gump. That was rather large. And then the fact that he taped himself, that wasn't even the cover-up. That was him like, I shouldn't have, I don't know what I was thinking, George. Walking around talking to fucking paintings, blaming the Jews for everything. That, honest to God, that had very little to do with the break-in. Dick Nixon just fucking went on a downward spiral.
The numbers should skyrocket downward.
Here I am like an idiot.
There, the cover-up, and you can see them now. They are going to try and destroy him, destroy his reputation.
Why? For what? Again, no, they aren't. No one is coming for this dickhead. It's the same thing with John Paul McIsaac. No one cares. Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks her fucking TV is spying on her. Why would... I don't want to hear what she has to say. Nobody does. What kind of secrets do people think she has? Are you shitting me? If anybody is spying on Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's other members of the Freedom Caucus because they all think they're living in some sort of redneck spy novel. Grow the fuck up. Nobody cares. This, again, if they went, oh my God, legislation that was filed and signed by Barack Obama after it came from the Senate, because of his time in the Senate and his masterful use of the words that he was able to slip in some extra language into it after it had been voted on and passed that was different from the 17 copies they have filed. But never mind, and doesn't matter because the version that's signed by the president, that's the one that becomes law. Whether it wouldn't, because that version wouldn't have passed the thing, and it would still null and never mind. Anyways, Obama signed it, and in that was like 10% for the big guy written into the infrastructure bill. It was I'm getting a fuck you communist. That's nice. You do realize you're barking up the wrong tree, right? I'm in no way, shape, or form a communist. But good luck with that. I'm sure that word rattling around in your head makes a nice ringing noise that's very comfortable. You gotta, if you're gonna talk to me about, the pinkos, am I right? If you're gonna explain that there was a quid pro quo, I need the fucking quo. In the case of Trump, we have plenty. Him favoring Russia over our own intelligence community, him giving them private information that allegedly led to the death of an Israeli agent, him handing over a base in Syria to the Russians. We built this base and then we pulled out and we were going to leave the Kurds. Remember that whole shit? And then the Russians got to have that base. We basically gave it to them. All right. Remember that shit? All right. That's one of the many areas. Him getting out of certain areas in Africa, that was to benefit Wagner and the Russians specifically. We gave territory to them that we were supposed to be helping to stabilize the government there. And we're like, he's like, fuck it, they're black. And whoop, all that shit. That makes sense. That you could trace that. Okay, that kind of behavior makes sense if you're being paid to do that by the Russians or the Chinese or the Saudis even. What is it? And the fuck you commie guy who was just in the chat room. Go ahead. Tell me what Biden did since he's been in office that benefits Russia, China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, any of the countries that we have these even tacit, even Venezuela at this point. Who is he getting paid by, and what is it turning into that we don't do already? That doesn't count. What is it? What is it? What's the thing? What did we do? How are we benefiting any of these countries right now? Because last I checked, on every policy level, Biden is teabagging all of these motherfuckers. Feel free to tweet me at Hal Sparks or come back And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, Philip Bittner will be joining us live from Ukraine and catching us up on what's going on there. The Ukrainians have claimed 300 kilometers worth of space just in the last 24 hours, it looks like. And they are now encroaching into area that was taken pre-2014 all across the map. That is a huge turning point. And this is not even the full push. And we will be we'll be talking about a bunch of that stuff tomorrow. I may not have an afternoon show tomorrow, depending on my flight to go to LA, because I have stand-up. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Slava Ukraine. You guys are wonderful. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I would like to the trolls, honestly, to the big Trump fans who are in here, I want to say thank you for being here. And I want to tell you right now, I don't know if you know this, but there's a secret word that Trump loves. If you ever get a chance to meet him, it's great. I mean, I'm not even close to kidding. He loves it when you say